What a golden opportunity it is to be here with all of you today. And we would like to introduce ourselves again by taking a lead from our marriage encounter days. So, without further ado, this is my husband, Ed, and his most endearing quality is he keeps me on track and out of rabbit holes.
And this is my wife, Nan, whose most endearing quality is her Irish temperament and spirit, which, of course, includes the love of God. We want to thank Anne and the planning committee for the invitation for us to come and to share with you today and for their help along the way. And also to Julie Grimstead. We thank her for the article which she had placed about Loretto in the Pro-Life Health Care Alliance newsletter, and for her visit to Loretto, which has helped to encourage us on this journey. In Julie's article about Loretto, she said, "I came looking for an answer to an urgent question. What can be done to provide protection and ensure life-enhancing care for the frail elderly who, as their numbers grow, are increasingly victims of abuse and imposed death?" She said, "I would leave the next day certain that creating thousands of Loretto-like homes is the answer." So we have come to share with you about this alternative pathway to care, which includes a life experience of true compassion and mercy, a care which offers people a more fulfilling and often longer and natural way of living and dying, and which gives hope where there's no hope.
Today we are speaking of hope. This painting was commissioned for Loretto. And this painting is, in fact, it was modeled, the priest that's with us, his Father Ron is on that. But it's called compassion. And this is the true way that if we could make a choice, how we would go home to the Lord with our family around us, saying, us as Catholics would saying the rosary, but no matter what religion you are, praying and being there and holding the hand of the person going home. For us, the way is as Franciscans. We're secular Franciscans, and the goal is to live from gospel to life and life to gospel, and we're constantly trying every day to do that. Years ago, we took as a family motto, as Joshua 24:15, "As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord." And that continued into the ministry. "As for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord." And it continues into Loretto. Out of the Holy Family Ministry comes Loretto on the Plains Personal Care Home. And go ahead and read that.
This is the mission statement. Our mission is to provide respect life care at the end of life by creating an environment for patients and their families where medical and spiritual care are united to bring God's hope and healing through ministering to the sick and terminally ill in the light of the gospel message.
Why and how did we get involved? We kept hearing that people were being euthanized in the Netherlands and in Europe. Most people were not paying much attention at all at the reports that were coming out of the Netherlands and out of Holland. Most of the world was focused on the fight for the babies, the beginning of life, while the evil was entering as stealthily creeping into our society. In the light of this, the Lord began to move our hearts and make us painfully aware of the gaping hole in healthcare at the end of life. We spoke at length, one with one of our advisors, Dr. Brian Thatcher of the Eucharistic Apostles of Divine Mercy, and we asked him at the end of the 3 hours of conversation, "Brian, is this the Lord calling or the enemy distracting us away from our mission with families?" And after this discussion, then he quietly said, "Yes, I believe it is your calling for you. But you will have to lay down everything you are involved in now for this ministry to families. Everything will have to take a back seat to this vision, which will probably take the rest of your life and cost you everything."
As we journeyed on in this expanded mission to family, we came to know that no truer words were ever spoken. In the beginning, the Holy Redeemer Life Care Center plan had 22,000 square feet in it. the Lord showed us a 16-bed facility. And so we were taking this model around the country thinking that we were going to end up with something that large. But out of that, when we finally came back with all of our trips in 2003, and our advisor in Florida, we were on a retreat with Father Seraphim and Father Cause of the Shrine of Divine Mercy. And God took us with some of the best. And so we had this retreat. And after that retreat, Dr. Thatcher said to us, he says, you guys need to go home, put your hand to the plow. And so we did. That's when we went back home and we became CNAs and we started looking at these. And we had this vision. And he finally said, as we finished looking at everything, he said, look, you can't do the big plan. That's $2 million worth of construction to build that home. And so, okay, so then we needed to size it down. Well, the Lord sent us. You want to share a little?
This big field. Does it look like that Noah story?
Yeah, that was the field.
There's a Shrine of Divine Mercy.
He said, build it.
Yep, right in that field. Without any money in the bank, without any credit in the bank. Okay, all right. So we invited several people, and we broke the ground. We had the shovels, and there were about 30, 40, 50 people there. But guess what? One of those groups brought a $300 check. It was the first money that we put away to put for the foundation.
It didn't happen overnight. We poured the concrete, and it was 2 years before the framing went up on it. We prayed every day the Chaplet of Divine Mercy, and we were still traveling and talking to others about this vision and so on. And God anchored that. He burned that mission and that in our hearts about what he wanted us to do.
And the town of Hartley said, look at Noah. There's a slab. What are Ed and Nan doing anyway?
It felt that way sometimes. When you step out on the water, and you have to see whether you're going to sink or not. Well, there were a lot of times that we thought we were, but we didn't, because God placed brothers and sisters in the community there to hold us up and support us. And not just Catholics. There were only about 5 Catholic families in the whole community, but a lot of good Protestant brothers and sisters who believed in the vision and listened, and they wanted to be part of it.
And that's the way this builds. So out of nothing, God built something. So for with God, all things are possible. What's so different about Loretto than any other home? And that's the question that you're asking. Loretto is a home. It's not a facility. We have nurses that come in, and they're still in facility mentality, and we have to say, slow down, this is a home. We're home. And so the people have a sense of belonging. Everybody's got staff, people, families, interaction families for a birthday party. That was our first patient. We're playing Farkle. Over here, we're playing dominoes together, making cabbage, coleslaw, and orange juice, and fixing the flowers. And everybody is a part of life and a part of those decisions. That's a different thing. Our therapies come down to cooking. There's Clara making her cake that never lasts. They still can hold the children that come in. It makes it home. And there's one of our residents, Keith, with my 2 grandchildren. There they are, building a little garden for tomatoes. Now, this is a real important part of Loretto and any home. Pets. This little dog has kept this gentleman up here that came with 3 months maybe to live. He had a stroke. He said, don't worry about it if he dies. He's now there working on his 7th year. That's what happens. That's what happens when you live life instead of think death. And of course, we have our main musician. If you look on that, see, our main musician, music, my cat. And then physical therapy. Now, these are just a few of the things. Involvement is very, very important. We did a lot of canning in the last 3 years in the summertime. That's my daughter, Rachel, and Julie met her. And Ed's back there, and the patients are the residents. I call them resident patients. Anyway, they're cutting up vegetables to put in those jars. Father Ron, he's our priestess with us. Over down here, we are spreading the word about this kind of care at the
San Diego Conference on Hospice and Palliative Care.
Right. Great big huge conference. I mean, doctors and nurses are just a small part when you get these pharmaceutical houses and all these people. And here we are with our little booth in the corner, very, very Divine Mercy, very red, very, very faith-filled. And I wanted to share this one story because it's very short. One of the men who had a fellowship, I heard somebody here has a fellowship, came up to us and he went like, "How do you know?" "What? How do you know to say no to this stuff?" I said, "Sir, do you believe in God?" He says, "Yes." I said, "Then listen to him. He'll tell you." Here it is, guys, until natural death. Right in her bedroom, we brought all the makings for the cake that never lasts 3 days before she died. And we made the cake that never lasts. But guess what? She didn't die right away. She lived on probably about 3 weeks more.
Because she had hope. Hope is such an important thing, and that's what we try to do.
Here's our second patient, Richard, who had COPD. And one of the things that his pastor would do to him when he would get in the hospital, he would say, "Now listen, you can't let Nan win at dominoes." This guy was very proud. He was the best domino player in Dalhart. And I never played him. So, if I win, that's a bad deal. So he would get kind of perked up. Well, there he is on his deathbed and getting weaker and weaker. And it says, "Well, maybe it's time to play that domino game where you can beat Nan to be your last wish here, right?" So we got out the dominoes, and it kind of helped him, and Father Ron's there. We had just sung around his bed. We had the Mennonite people came in and sing. We sang around his bedtime, his bed. And after everybody left, we got him just all cleaned up for the night. They said to me to go to my room. We'd been up long enough hours. And I went to lay down, and Ed went to lay down. And the fellow that was watching him was an hour. He says, "I heard this noise, and I looked over. And there was Richard with a big smile. And he's gone home."
Amen.
We ran into the program, "No One Dies Alone," and that was spoken of today too. And that's the way it is at Loretto. If somebody starts going into that direction, there's always somebody in the room. There's always somebody in the room. But we want to say that prayer makes a difference, giving hope where there is no hope. And if in these homes, we want to encourage people, we want to have people think about opening up their home, not just building a home like we were called to build, but opening up their own home. Think about it. How many empty nests there are, and how many people could do something like that and take somebody home with them and care for them. Believe me, they'll have all the other help that they need. They just need to decide.
What we learned from taking only one resident for a year was we learned 3 things, or 4. But we learned that how the home functioned, how life flowed in it as far as taking care of all of the mundane things and so on. And then we learned about the resident and caregiving needs. What's involved in caring for a resident. What kind of trials we'll be facing and so on. And then we learned about ourselves as caregivers. How do we fit into the picture? Can I do this? God called. We haven't even put one person in the home, when we opened it. But we said yes. And the 4th thing that we learned, of course, was to trust God more deeply as a father and a provider.
Now, this was our big thing. I know we're taking a little bit more time, but this was our big hope that today we would be able to say that we launched right here at this conference Homes of Life Across America. And to get into this new website about Homes of Love Across America, the point is to encourage, to excite people about it, to get involved. Lay people, not just doctors, but lay people like Ed and I. I was a school teacher and a mom. He's an engineer and a CNA now. Yeah. How is God going to put people's lives, fragile lives, in our hands? No experience except for the first aid I could get for watching my 10 kids grow up and put on a Band-Aid. But yet God did it. And the point of all the things we're saying, it's not about Ed and Nan. If you go away with it's about Ed and Nan, then we've lost, we've not done it right. It's about God and how he can take every one of you and the people you talk to that don't feel that they could do it. The impossible was made possible by God.
And that's part of what this new website said. We're launching a new website just for this, to start spreading the new and alternative pathway to health care for the sick and terminally ill. We need grandmas and grandpas to come home. There are millions of empty homes, empty nests, some families that need to love and care for someone to come home. A new twist on an old tradition. It has to do with family. And this is what, when I heard Mark talking about how important his family was to him, well, for us, our family is important too. We have 10 daughters and 45 grandchildren. And one of the sacrifices that we've had to make is God's called us to get out and to do something about end-of-life issues and to build this home. You know, it took a long time, 1999 till today, 17 years. And that we've just immersed ourselves in this. And the point is that if we can do this, there are hundreds and thousands of couples out there across this land that can do a simple CNA course to learn something about that, make a few modifications on their homes, and they can take a neighbor in. They can take 2 people in or whatever. But it's got to be bigger than this. It's got to get out, and it's got to happen. Or the tidal wave, this tsunami that's coming, there's going to be a tremendous carnage, as the elderly, as Julie was concerned about, just abused and pushed aside. So we want to encourage you to go and pray about this. Maybe you're not called, but take a vision like this home and talk to others about it in your community, in your parish or your church. So.
And we want to thank you for allowing us to be here with you today and for sharing this vision. But it's not just for us. It's for the nation. That's why we're a little bit nervous, because it's the first time getting out there and really saying it, because when God said, Noah, build it, we knew right there it was not for Hartley. It's not for Hartley, Texas, a town of 600 people. It's for the nation. So we are also called to help people, to have them call in. You got to know what your state law is. There's a lot of things that you got to know, but they're easy things to learn. They're not hard, I guarantee you. Think about your mission and what it is. Maybe you've been reignited in thinking about where you've been and where you're going. I hope so. Be encouraged as we are after meeting all of you. None of us stands alone, and we sure found that out this weekend. Leave your junk here when you go home to Jesus.
Amen.
Doesn't matter.